It's so nice to be here in Cleveland. It's a little better than Detroit. I used to know a girl who had a pussy like Cleveland. Everyone knew where it was but nobody wanted to go there. 3 girls went out drinking on Friday night. They all got really drunk. On Saturday night they got together and the first girl said, "I can't believe how drunk I was. I was so drunk I went home and blew chunks." The second girl said, "I was worse than that. I smashed my car and had to run away so I wouldn't get arrested." The third girl said, "I was so drunk I went into the wrong house, and I had to jump out the window when the people came home." The first girl said, "I don't think you understand. Chunks is my dog.
You are a sick bastard.
I was drinking with one of my good friends and he obviously had too much to drink. He slipped up and told me that he had sex with his 88-year-old grandmother. I asked how the sex was, and he replied, 'Have you ever tried to pull a grilled cheese sandwich apart?' This cocksucker is funny." One summer day little Johnny was sitting in his house watching TV when his pit bull burst through the screen door and ran to the sidewalk and grabbed a poodle that this lady was walking and started shaking it. Johnny ran to the sidewalk and rammed his finger up the dog's ass. The dog dropped the poodle immediately. Johnny grinned and told the lady, "That's my dog. He can dish it out but he can't take it."
That's it. I'm leaving.
This woman called her husband and asked him to pick up some flavored condoms on the way home. That night after watching TV he went to bed. She washed the dishes and went upstairs a little later. She slid under the blankets and gave him a blowjob. When she finished, she asked him, "Cheese and onion?" He didn't understand what she was talking about. Then she said, "Were those cheese and onion condoms?" He replied, "I'm sorry, I forgot to pick them up on the way home." Mark did not have an erection for the past 2 years. His wife was not happy that she wasn't being serviced. He had tried Viagra and he had seen a doctor. He read on the internet that rubbing pussy juice under the nose might work, so one night when his wife was asleep, he lifted her nightgown and started rubbing his finger under his nose. She was getting very wet and he started to get an erection. After 30 minutes he had the biggest erection he could remember and he tried to wake his wife up so they could have sex. He shook her and said, "You have to see this." She was sound asleep. She reached over and turned the light on, and looked at him and said, "You woke me up in the middle of the night just to tell me you have a bloody nose? This guy is hilarious." 2 guys went camping with their wives. Mark knew that his wife was on the rag so he suggested they swap wives for the night. The girls wanted nothing to do with that, but as the night went on and they started to get drunk, the girls agreed to do it. Mark went up to his friend John and said, "Tomorrow when the girls aren't looking, tap on the coffee cup how many times you had sex." The next morning Mark was at the table while the girls were making breakfast. He had a smile on his face as he tapped the coffee cup twice. John had a blank expression as he picked up the spoon and tapped the raspberry jelly twice and peanut butter 3 times. "If he starts talking about sheep I will kick his ass." 3 guys were bragging about their sex lives. The Italian said he would rub olive oil all over his wife's breast and lick it off. It drove his wife crazy. The Frenchman said he would pour wine into his wife's navel and drink it. It drove his wife crazy. The Polish guy said that after sex, he would wipe his dick on the curtains. It would drive his wife crazy. "We should have gone to the Anne Frank Museum instead. I used to date a gypsy girl, and once a month I would get my palm read. She was anorexic and dyslexic. After she ate, she would stick her finger in her ass. She broke up with me and I was heartbroken. My mother tried to make me feel better by telling me there were other fish in the sea. I told my mother it wasn't just the smell that I missed. That is just wrong." Mark went out and got hammered one Friday night and the next morning he had a hangover. He went into the kitchen to get some coffee and an aspirin. His wife was at the stove and she had one of his socks in a frying pan. He asked what she was doing, and she said that last night he came home and asked her to cook his sock. I have one question to ask the audience today. If a dog is wagging his tail, is it still considered rape? Thanks for coming, I hope you enjoyed the show. I have to piss like a racehorse. Is this thing still on?